So how can we know, or when can we know if a lease is classified as a finance lease or an operating lease? So here, under IFRS number 16, paragraph 63, any of the following situations would normally lead to the lease being classified as finance lease by the lessor. These are the classifications, and in order for us to easier to remember these classifications, we make it into an acronym, which is the THUMS, which T stands for transfer of ownership, the O stands for the option to purchase the asset, M the material lease term or the major part, and lastly the S, which is substantial of present value of lease payments. So the first classification that we will talking about is the transfer of ownership. So transfer of ownership of the underlying asset to the lessee at the end of the lease term, meaning to say, if at the end of the lease term, for example, moingon si lessor kay lessee, kay nakasinabot man sila, nga sige lessee, imo na nga kana nga asset or kana nga property, automatically, it is an finance lease. And once again, kay lessee matransfer ang asset kay originally si lessor man ang tag-iya ana. So the next classification is the option to purchase the asset. So at a price which is expected to be sufficiently lower than the fair value at the date the option becomes exercisable. At the inception of the lease, it is reasonably certain that the option will be exercised. If in the inception of the lease, walay balak exercise ni lessee ang kanang option, see to it is an operating lease. Dili enough nga giingon sa problem nga naay option to purchase of the asset. Dapat at the inception date meaning the start date of the term or contract, it must be reasonably that option should be exercised. So the third classification is the material lease term or the major part. So major part of the economic life of the underlying asset even if title is not transferred. So when we can say that it is a material lease term. So under the USA GAAP, major part means at least 75%, okay? At least 75% of its useful life of the asset or economic life of the asset. So meaning, for example, if 15 years ang useful life ana nga asset, then girent nimo og 12 years. So 75% ikaw ang nigamit. So murag ikaw na ang nigamit sa whole useful life of that pertaining asset. So murag ikaw na ang tag-iya na. Thus, it is a finance lease. So, the fourth classification is the substantial present value of lease payments. So, the present value of the lease payments amounts to substantially all of the fair value of the underlying asset at the inception of the lease. So, when can we say that it is considered as substantial? So, it is considered as substantial under the USA GAAP. It is said that if at least the present value is at least 90% of the fair value, thus, mura na himog gibayran ang tibok price of the asset. So, this is classified as a finance lease. So, those are the four classifications of finance lease. So, kung ang lease transaction, wala atong mga classification, then it is considered as an operating lease. By the way, napo dito gitawag ng mga other criterias. Under the paragraph 63 and 64, provide that other situations that individually or in combination could also lead to lease being classified as finance lease. those are the other criteria. So take note guys that these other criteria are more suggestive in nature, meaning this could also lead to a finance lease classification.